Iran's negotiating stance has changed since June of 2025. Back then, Iran was willing to engage in months of rolling diplomacy, but now they are imposing a strict 30-day clock into their terms. Also, previously, Iran used nuclear enrichment as their primary incentive. Now they have moved the nuclear conversation to phase 2 and won't even talk about uranium until the US leaves the region and pays for the damage they caused. And they are insisting on keeping the toll on the Strait of Hormuz. Many of us have heard of this so-called 14-point plan, but what are the actual terms the Iranians proposed? The exact classified text is being held by the US State Department and the Iranian Supreme National Security Council. Nevertheless, Iranian state-affiliated media have leaked the content of each point. President Trump confirmed he received the exact wording earlier this week and described the concept as better than expected in terms of its clarity. But I'm going to go through the 14 points and let you judge if these terms are better or not. The 14-point plan was submitted by Iran via Pakistan on April 30th, 2026, and has 4 main categories structured to force a Phase 1 resolution of the current war and maritime blockade before any discussion of the nuclear issue begins. Category 1 falls under the immediate cessation of hostilities, permanent end to war within 30 days, mutual non-aggression guarantees, and regional de-escalation, including in Yemen and Lebanon. Category 2 is a removal of the economic and military pressure, lifting of the naval blockade, sanctions relief, unfreezing of assets, and war reparations. Category 3 are strategic and territorial demands, US withdrawal from bordering areas, including bases in Iraq, Syria, and Qatar, specifically targeting al-Udeid and al-Assad, recognizing Iran's sovereign oversight and governance of the Strait of Hormuz, and stopping unauthorized foreign naval patrols, freedom of navigation for Iranian oil and commercial vessels globally. And finally, Category 4, the legal and diplomatic framework, official recognition of the current succession and leadership in Tehran by the United States, and exchange of all prisoners on all sides. This one is curious as I have not heard who is currently in custody. This next point is only to be negotiated after the successful implementation of the previous 12 points, and that is the commitment to begin nuclear-specific negotiations. And lastly, the creation of a joint commission, likely involving Pakistan and China, to verify compliance of all points within the 30-day window. Remember when I said President Trump confirmed he received the exact wording earlier this week and described the concept as better than expected in terms of its clarity. It's certainly not better than the JCPOA, nor is it better than the terms that were about to be agreed upon in June of 2025 or February of 2026. Personally, I don't think the US is going to agree to any of these terms, and I think Iran knows this, which tells me that they are not in any hurry to end this stalemate. The question then becomes, why? I think they are betting that the short-term pain of a blockade and military strikes will eventually be outweighed by the long-term gain of potentially forcing a US retreat. They are currently bypassing the maritime blockade by rail, exporting oil using the Iron Silk Road through Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan into China. They are also trucking oil overland through Iraq into Syria to reach the Mediterranean. This is an interesting topic in and of itself. Iranian oil is sanctioned, so who is buying it and how? Let me know if you want me to do a video on that. I might just do one anyway. Iran also has new land routes through Pakistan to bring in food and medical supplies. And Russia has reactivated shipping lanes across the Caspian Sea, which is an inland sea that is inaccessible to the US Fifth Fleet and a safe zone for moving weapons, grain, and oil. The uprising that the US was depending on has become a rally around the flag nationalist movement inside Iran. The IRGC is the military and the only entity providing any semblance of order and food distribution. So they have effectively militarized the entire civilian supply chain. Chinese refineries, often called teapots, continue to buy Iranian oil from the shadow fleet, and both China and Russia continue to support Iran to prevent the US from having a permanent US stronghold in the heart of Eurasia. A lot of what we are seeing now is a result of the US negotiating in bad faith multiple times. There is no trust between the parties. This begs the question, any deal that is made needs to be enforceable. Iran knows any US president can walk away from a deal. So what would a concrete guarantee look like? Aside from nuclear peace, which was championed by Kenneth Waltz in 1981 and argues if Iran had nuclear weapons, the US and Israel would not be able to attack them. Aside from that option, there would need to be security guarantees ratified by the US Senate. I find that to be highly unlikely in the current political climate. Or some mechanism that allows Iran to legally enrich to 90% uranium if the US breaches the treaties or introduces sanctions. And Iran has proposed that Pakistan or China could hold their enriched uranium in escrow, which they would get back if the US breaks any deal that was made. Honestly, I don't think that we're going to see any resolution anytime soon. I am watching to see how the meeting between Trump and Xi go later this month, May 14th and 15th. I believe that may be a pivotal moment in how things progress from here. What I am seeing is war fatigue. People are tired of hearing about this conflict, and the markets have started to normalize. This crisis is going to impact Europe and Asia more so than the rest of the world, and is likely to fade into the background like the Russia-Ukraine war, the Epstein files, and COVID. The news cycle is moving on. I still see serious consequences resulting from this by the sheer fact that the Strait of Hormuz has been shut down for so long and there is no end in sight. But I think a lot of people, including myself, would like some relief from all the doom and gloom. My name is Jonathan Paulette, and this is Practical Energy Insights. I have spent the past 25 years living and working around the world in the upstream oil and gas industry. My channel is about the energy sector, and I've been somewhat sidelined by this war. My next few videos, I'm going to refocus on some interesting, hopeful, and inspiring things that are happening in the energy sector right now. From nuclear to renewables, there are a lot of things happening right now, and we are seeing the world look to get off burning fossil fuels sooner rather than later as a direct result of the vulnerability that has been exposed in our supply chain. So, if you want to hear about that, something positive for a change, make sure you follow me here. Don't worry, I will still keep you up to date on things in the Middle East as they unfold. That's it for today. Stay safe, take care, and as always, thanks for watching.